Hey everybody. So I guess I only really knew Jamie for the past 6 years. I've grown up with Steven, as Rick said. The whole Werner family had known him for quite a long time, but when I was younger, Jamie was, to me, really just Steven's older brother. He was this idol that Steven had. He bragged about him, he loved him, he told us all the stories of his football days, told us about his legendary status at the Maryland party scene for those college friends of his. But it wasn't until we knew that he was going to come back to coach at Whitman in 2011, our senior season, that our personal relationship really began. And then between a year of football and the countless hours I spent with him and the rest of you Werners at the beach and just hang out in your basement, we really became as close as could be. I was talking about this story the other night. One of my favorite memories from the beach was a very heated game of Monopoly that Lauren was a part of. The jury says it was instigated by Steven, but long story short, Jamie and I didn't speak to each other for 3 hours afterwards. There was another time that he stepped on a fish hook in the middle of the ocean, and he just terrified the small group of children next to him. And he's yelling for Stoddy, wherever you are out there, to pull the thing out of his foot. You were always his surgeon. I remember all the food we made together. He always wanted steak on his birthday. He always wanted steak on Thanksgiving too, which was a very funny thing about Jamie to me. And I remember, a conversation we had about college basketball, the recruiting trail and all that, and I don't think I'll ever find someone who really understood it in so much depth. Through the years, we fought like brothers, we laughed like brothers, and we opened up like brothers too. Now, there's one unique thing that Jamie and I share, and that was our brilliant decision making. And some of you might think that's funny, but let me explain. At different times in our lives, when both of us were living in a dirty frat house with one roommate in a tiny room with a slew of responsibilities, we thought it'd be a great idea to get a dog. So, it couldn't have been a better time. So many of you know Jack. He's on your friendship card. He's up here. And if you know anything about that dog, it's that Jamie loved him with everything he had. He attacked owning that dog with, so much energy it would scare you sometimes. So of course, when I decided to adopt my dog Teddy, Jamie was the first person I contacted. So recently I looked back through some of the messages we exchanged during that time, and one thing in particular he told me kind of stands out. He told me that owning a dog forces one to mature much more quickly than the average Joe. He said it makes the transition into adulthood so much smoother and teaches you a lot about responsibility and a lot about yourself. And he ended with telling me that he was sure that owning Jack would prepare him in some regard for one day when he was going to have kids. And he told me that they were going to have a lot of kids. He's right about the first two bits, and I'm sure he would have been right about the last two, because even though he left us far too early and never had biological kids of his own, he was an older brother figure and a father figure to me and all the other players he had the opportunity to coach. He had kids and brothers all around the country. So I'll close with a request. I spent this past weekend in Rochester, and early on Sunday morning, around 5 o'clock, after a few hours of not being able to sleep, I decided to take a walk and clear my head. It was a snowy morning on my walk to the convenience store. Because I didn't quite know where I was, I decided to retrace my steps to get home. On the way back, I noticed that even in the 20 minutes, the snow had almost completely covered my footsteps. And it got me to thinking about how on such a big planet, with so many people, time can quickly erase any imprint you've made. So I ask all of you here, friends, family, teammates, coaches, and everyone else here who's here to celebrate Jamie's life, whatever you do, don't let Jamie become one of those forgotten footsteps, buried by time on the walk of your life. Cherish every moment and memory you had with him, because I know I will, and I know that he'll be walking with me through the snow or otherwise for the rest of my life. Thank you.